Success, Wes Tankersley. What is up, everyone? It is November 7th. We are getting close. You know, it's funny. I was thinking about this the other day. What is up, Nikki, over on the old TikTok? If you guys want to get on, if you're on TikTok over there and you want to get in on the conversation, head over to YouTube, Shaping Success with Wes Tankersley. Come hang out with me over there. Get in the conversation. We have a conversation going on in there. I do it live on TikTok, but it not as interactive over there as I can be over here because it's right in front of my face. And TikTok doesn't allow Restream, the program that I use to get this stuff going over there, does not allow for me to stream on TikTok at the same time because I can get YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, all on Ecamm. So come over, join that. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you turn the bell on so you get notified every time I go live, which for the most point has been at 5 o'clock every morning for the last, we're going on week 3, I think. I don't know. Nikki, thanks for hanging out. It's good to see you. Hope that you're having an awesome morning. I need to talk to Brian about my code for the Warriors Collection coffee because I have a code that you get a discount if you get coffee from there. But, yeah. So this morning, I was kind of having a rough thought process trying to figure out what topic we were going to cover and what we were going to talk about and trying to decide what is holding me back. And then it came to me that we should talk about like barriers. When we talk about a barrier, you can think of like a physical barrier, something that holds you back, something that stops you from getting somewhere. Here in Idaho right now, we get a lot of road construction, which sucks, and that is an actual barrier. TikTok's funny. They're over there and they're like, hey, you need to do this and you need to do that, and blah, 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 blah. They like try to get you to make them money, but then they don't want to push out your videos. So what do you expect? Jen over in the old TikTok, it's got to be late at night for Jen over in Australia. So we're going to talk about barriers. Okay. So we talk about like the physical barriers, right? Like a lot of road construction here. So we're driving down the road the other day and I've talked to people about the way that I think, like my thought process, how I do things in my mind. 10:30 p.m. in Australia. So we're waking up. It's 5 o'clock a.m. here in the morning over in this world. Good to see you. We are doing a live over on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, go head over there and you can get in the conversation on YouTube. But the big thing is that those barriers stop you from getting where you're going. And I have a lot of issue with that because I drive around for my job. I'm going throughout this area, which is kind of like a 50, 60 mile radius. And there's a lot of construction going on. In my brain, I throw it into the GPS and I go, all right, this is how I get there. And then I start thinking about the last time I drove through there and all the things that stop me from getting where I want to get to quick enough to make it on time. Well, there's a lot of barriers. You can't go down this road. And there's this big old giant sign in front of you that says you cannot go down that road. It's annoying. It sucks. Because a lot of times you're trying to be on time, but you can't be on time when you can't go the way that you need to go. And so I go through all the time and I think about like how I'm going to get there. And there's 5 different ways I can get there, but I'm going to find the quickest way to get there. And when that barrier pops up, it slows you down, it stops you. Well, that's the same way it is with life, right? And so talking about those barriers, and that's a way to describe kind of a barrier, a physical barrier, but you have these mental barriers. You have these things that stop you from doing the things that you want to do. Could be time, could be money, could be, just a mental barrier. So why aren't you going out there? Why aren't you doing those things? Why aren't you trying to be better? Why aren't you trying to chase that goal and dream that you have? And sometimes it can just be between your ears. And I think that a lot of the times that's what it is. It's a mental barrier. So I got some quotes pulled up here and I want to talk a little bit about them, but having a plan, preparing, figuring out what it is to get past that barrier. What is your plan? How can you circumvent that barrier? Time, right? Time is a big barrier. I don't have enough time. But I bet you, I was listening to David Goggins talk about it. I bet you if you dissect your day and you think about the time that you have, right? There's 24 hours in a day. What are you doing with your time? And I always try to maximize my time, which this day and age with social media, it's funny how you can, or with this supercomputer, I'm looking at my supercomputers over there doing a TikTok live, in your hands, right? Like, okay, so you're in between something, so you can do this. Like my job, all right? This is how I get more in the day, all right? We have 8 hours in a day. My job is kind of fluid, right? Like I don't have to actually go into a physical place. Sorry, I'm hearing something funny. I'm trying to figure out where the hell it's coming from. Does it sound funny on the net? But I think about like I don't have to go to a physical place and put in 8 hours of work. So I have time in between. So I can maximize my time. And that's what I like about my job is that space in between, I can do something. So what am I doing with that space in between? I'm driving around, right? I go to the person's house. I take care of their order. I figure out what they're doing. I figure out what they need, get them taken care of. And then now I've got to drive to another one, right? Barring any barriers, getting in between there, trying to get from one place to another. Now it's going to drive me crazy. Is it that? It might be that. I don't know. No one probably hears it. It's just me. It's in my brain. But, trying to get there. So in between, so what do? I pop on, and if I don't have to make a phone call, if I don't have to, call someone, make sure the order's getting taken care of, make sure anything's happening, blah, 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 I'll throw on an audiobook and I'll start listening to something that'll motivate me or teach me how to utilize my time a little bit better. So now I've taken that time back, right? That time that's taken away driving around has been taken back because I'm doing something to further myself and make myself better. Time's a barrier, right? So we sit there and we think about that. You have 8 hours in a day for work, right? Right. And then you have 8 hours for sleep if you need 8 hours of sleep, right? So there, right there is 16 hours. What are you doing with that other 8 hours? And I can bet you there's a lot of sitting around and there's a lot of things that stop you from doing what you want to do. How many times that, we're live here on TikTok, but TikTok, Jen says I can't hear anything weird except you. Oh, that's funny. But you're sitting there crushing TikTok. You are spending time eating. You are watching TV. You are doing all these things. And then you're saying, I don't have time. Well, you got to think about what you can do with those other 8 hours or the time in between the time. I don't have time to go do this. I don't have time to do that. You want to get a degree. It's pretty easy now to get a degree if you want to do it all online, depending on what you're looking for. I want to further myself. I want to do more. I want to be better. Well, you have to do the work. Use those time constraints that you have and use them to better yourself. So time's always kind of one of those excuses that you have. I want to be a better father. I want to do this. I want to spend more time with the kids. Well, you spend less time watching TV. Okay. Here's some quotes about having a plan. All right. Abraham Lincoln says, give me 6 hours to chop down a tree and I will spend the first hour sharpening the axe. Well, the plan is to get that axe sharp enough that it doesn't take it takes 4 hours to chop down a tree. Sometimes I wonder if you think about that, but if you don't plan, right, what could happen? You could sit there and you could chop down that tree in 6 hours with a dull axe and take a lot more time. So be prepared for what it is. Okay. A plan, creating a plan. Good fortune is what happens when opportunity meets with planning. Okay. A lot of times we sit there, I can't remember if it was yesterday. Like these days are kind of running into each other, but we talked about like people comparing themselves to others and like acting like, well, what does so-and-so get that I don't get, and worrying about what other people do. Well, if you just do it, if you stop thinking about what you're wasting your time, right? That's a barrier. Thinking about what other people are doing. You're wasting your time trying to figure out what someone else is doing when you could be spending that time working on you and getting you better and doing the things that you need to do. Okay. Something to think about. This is a good one because I always think about beginning with the end in mind. All right. So you have an end goal, you have an end result, right? So you have to know how to get there and planning for that. This is from Yogi Berra, who is a catcher for the Yankees. I don't know if he's still alive. If you don't know where you're going, you'll end up someplace else. Okay. So think about going on a road trip. What do? What did you used to do? Now we just plug it into our phone, right? And we go there. But for those of you who are old enough to remember, you used to have to get out a map and say, oh, what route am I going to take? And then you'd have to follow that map. And then you'd have to know that, like I'm going on this highway and this freeway and this interstate to get where you're going, right? So you have to plan it out. You have to know where you're going. You still have to know your route. The thing is that's different about it now is that like you put it in your GPS and it pops it up. Here it is. But you can't get there without knowing where it's going. If I want to get to Boise right now, I'm going to have to know the route. I'm going to have to know I need to get to Boise, right? So I'm going to have to know that route. And I'm going to have to know the best way to get there. All right. End up in Timbuktu. Very, very possible you could end up in Timbuktu. Jen says you would have made a great future, and for once, I'm not not talking to piss out of you. Oh, the Australia lingo. I get it. I appreciate that, Jen. All right. Never look back unless you're planning to go that way. Never look back unless you're planning to go. Is anyone ever planning to go backwards? I mean, is that kind of one of those deals? It's like, is anyone ever planning to go backwards? That is never the plan. I don't feel like, unless you started one way and you're like, you know what, this isn't working. I need to go back that way and start over, because that is something that happens, right? That is something that happens. The thing is, though, is the goal is always to move forward, right? So we're always looking towards moving forward. So if we have to take a step back to move forward, we need to make sure that we do that. If we take that step back as a step to move forward, then we really aren't going backwards. We're just making a lateral move. It's a great one. That's a great one. Let's see. What does Tom Landry have to say? I love reading these quotes. It's funny because I have to tell you a story. I used to go through my Facebook, which I don't know how many of you guys are on Facebook, but I used to go through my Facebook and sit there and go, my mom would post these quotes. And she just post these quotes over and over again. I just thought it was funny. It's like, I unfollowed my mom because it was kind of annoying. And so because she kept posting these quotes, I'm like, this is stupid. I don't want to feel rah. And now I feel that way. So it's interesting. Moving back, you cannot stay there, right? You can't stay there. You can go back, but you can't stay there. But I think that like a lot of times, I was talking to someone about this yesterday, all the things that happen in your past are the things that help you to be who you are today, right? And I truly say that I would not take anything back that happened in the past, because if I did, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't know who I am. I wouldn't be in the situation that I currently am in and be the person that I am. So you can't like dwell on that past situation. That happened, that's in the past, and you can do the things that you need to do to move forward. But without having that knowledge that you had, you couldn't relate it to anything else. And it's funny because that's how things, like when someone says something like these quotes, right? We're just sitting here reading through some simple quotes and talking about how they relate to us and what we do. But I honestly take that quote and I look at it and I think, how does that relate to my life? And if it doesn't relate to my life, then I don't use it. I mean, but if it really hits home, then I'm going to talk about it, right? So it's crazy. It's crazy how that will make you, I honestly, I feel like you just have to relate it. There's a guy on TikTok, his name's Andrew Bird, and I've talked about this a couple times, but every time something goes bad, every time you think that something is causing you pain or trouble, you have to sit there and you have to think about, and you have to realize that it does bring you something, right? I'm sitting here. I have this little mini split in here. It's making noise. I don't know if that's what's causing me to hear in my head the noise that's coming from the microphone system. And as a podcaster, you sit there and you think about it, everything. It's like, what does it sound like? And this is a real tough one because this is actually live. And then I just take the live audio and I stick it on the podcast platform. And I stopped editing it because it's too much to worry about. This is easy to just come in here and just reflect on my day. But if you let that stuff bother you, it's not going to get done. I could sit there and say, I'm not going to do this, and it'll never get done. Lil Wayne. How many of you guys know who Lil Wayne is? The rapper. Sometimes these people that you don't think would say something really cool say stuff that's really cool, and it just kind of surprises you. But they've gotten somewhere. They've done something. They've made something out of themselves. But this Lil Wayne said this: the more time you spend contemplating what you should have done, so the more time we sit there and we think about it, the less time we have. You lose valuable time planning what you could do and will do. That's almost a little bit of the opposite of what it is, but you could sit there and you could plan yourself. How many of you do this? Like, how many of you sit there and will over plan, right? You plan too much and then you don't take action because you talk yourself out of taking action, right? The thing is you have to take that action. If you don't, nothing ever happens. As we spoke about before, nothing changes unless something changes. So you can sit there and talk about it all day long and never take action. And if you don't ever take that action, nothing ever happens. Weird. This is a funny one. Just do it. Yep. That's probably where Phil Knight came up with the Nike thing. Where'd it go? I saw this one. Oh, this one's a great one because I think that a lot of people, I don't know who Claire Cook is, but we always talk about plans, right? You put too much into the plan and you get overwhelmed by the plan. Exactly. Right. That's great, Jen. That's the thing. Like you can stop yourself from doing it. That can be a barrier, right? Overthinking can be a barrier. And it's funny because I'll take this even further, but Claire Cook, I don't know who she is. I'd have to look her up, but if a plan doesn't work, the alphabet has 25 more letters. So how many of you have heard that before? Well, here's plan A, but here's plan B. Like plan A doesn't work. We can always go to plan B. Plan a plan. And that's what I like about like the lateral move thing that we talk about is if you have to make that lateral move and you have to go to plan B because plan A didn't work out, you still have a chance. The only time that you don't have a chance is when you quit, right? That's when you fail, when you cease to try to carry out the plan or build another plan. So being afraid of failure is not a good thing, right? You can't be afraid to fail because if you're afraid to fail, nothing will ever happen. And I swear it's tough. It's hard. Like, how many times did you get it on the first try? How many times have you gotten anything on the first try? The thing is you start to get scared about things and you don't want to do them. So that's the barrier, right? So there's a fear of failure, and then there's also a fear of success because what will happen when I am successful, right? And sometimes that fear of success can stop you in your tracks because there is a whole nother set of what's going to happen after I am successful. But if you look at if you look at failure as a green light, you're unstoppable. You're unstoppable. You have to find that though. Like it's never easy to accept the things that happen, right? Especially when they're bad. And I'm going to leave you with this because I think we've talked about this before. I've talked about on the podcast to a lot of people about this hater math thing. And I was talking about someone about it yesterday and like how this relates to my life. And Dave Conry, a friend of mine on TikTok, said there's this thing called hater math. And I don't know if he made this up or if he got it, but I thought a lot about it. And it's in life when there are 10 people telling you that there is something good from what you're doing or great job or whatever, complimenting you and building you up and making you feel good about yourself. And then there's one person who said, you're stupid. Or there's one person who said, you'll never make it. Or there's one person who says that won't ever work. Which one do you listen to? Which one do you put more weight on? So if we were to take those 10 good comments and weigh them out and say each comment is a pound, right? Each good comment is a pound. I can guarantee you that you put 1 pound on a good comment and you put 10 pounds on one bad comment. So we put all our thought process into the bad things and not the good things, even though there are more good things going on than bad things. And it's funny because you think about it. I think of one of the classes that I took in college when they were talking about, they had little kids sitting side by side, and they show them 2 little glasses. One's tall and skinny and one is big and wide. They both hold the same amount of water, but because one looks bigger, they want the one that looks bigger. They don't want the one that has more in it because they don't understand that it's the same amount of water. It's just in a different shape. So whatever looks bigger is the better one. So I want you to think about that today, okay? Think about how you put weight on the negative things. Think about the barriers that you have in front of you. Think about how you can circumvent those barriers and stop them from stopping you. Because last I'd known, you're going down the road. There's more than one way to get there typically. And if you can't get there the one way that you're going to go, you can find the other way, or you can just walk. But you can still get to your destination as you keep moving. So we believe the lie is what Jen says, and that's what it is. We believe the lie because who knows why? It's ridiculous, but it's mental. Okay, it's mental. Thanks for hanging out with this morning's edition of Morning Coffee. My cup is almost gone. We're doing this every day, 5 o'clock Pacific time, except for Saturday and Sunday because, well, I need a break every once in a while. But I do enjoy doing this little reflection. If you want to help grow the show, subscribe. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube at least. Hit that little bell so that you get the notification that I am going live and so that you know you can be here. I'm doing it live on TikTok. You can hang out with it over there too. We have a little conversation going over here on a chat. This is in a bunch of different places, so it's not just on YouTube, but YouTube is kind of where I'm trying to grow this thing. And if you want to help support the show, you can join the Patreon. Get a link in my bio anywhere. You can find that link. If you don't know, just email me, wes@westankersley.com. If you have a topic you want to talk about or you want me to talk about, hit me up, let me know. And until next time, I challenge you to find the shape of your success.